Good morning, everybody. Welcome to First Church. Welcome to our Zoom call. Welcome to all of you who will be watching this week on Facebook and YouTube. I want to give a special welcome to our growing audience. If this is your first time here, again, welcome to you. If you're very new and we don't have you on our list, please send a private message to Jimmy with your email address, your name, and if you'd like to get reminders, include your phone number, and we will send a reminder before our broadcast. We have a weekly e-letter that's usually filled with some spiritual gems. Include your information, and then Jimmy will send you the information you want. So let's start. I'm pausing a little bit so people can sign in. I know there's still people trying to get in. So once again, welcome to First Church here, broadcasting from New York City. I want to extend again greetings, warm welcome to everybody. So I don't know where you're all signing in from. Mostly everybody initially Zoom. So welcome to all the Zoom people on the board. We appreciate you. We get all your comments and your recommendations and all the praise. And we're hearing about your demonstrations, and that's really wonderful for us because it lets us know that our words, our work, our classes, our gatherings are going out far and wide. We are now fully a hybrid community, meaning we always have a studio audience. But the vast majority of you are part of our virtual community. We have a time after every segment on Sunday, on Wednesday, Thursday, our Louise section where any of you who want to share, there's usually time for everyone to share who wants to share. So it's a privilege, again, to get together at this time in our digital realm where we're transcending physical boundaries and we come together as one. Most of us know that we are all connected anyway, so here we are, all in this gathering together. So today, I'm working on I was putting together an old Raymond Charles Barker manuscript. He had a manuscript about prosperity that was dated, and I thought I'd dig into it and see what I might get out of it. So we're going to go on a journey of discovery and inspiration, centering on the important subject of prosperity. I hope our time together will uplift and illuminate us because we've come a long way since the days of our founder, Raymond Charles. Truth is truth, though. So many of the things he would say, of course, will be valid and true of any time, any age. So let us begin. Historically, we're in a modern age now, much more technologically advanced time. And we're rapidly evolving. So historically, humanity's progress was measured in terms of centuries. Now, we talk in terms of generations. Let's see. I'm a part of what's called the baby boom generation, which was the group of people born between 1946 and 1964. My generation, for the most part, could be characterized as being optimists. And most people born in this generation had a belief in the American dream, and it was a time of growing economic prosperity and hope, and there was advancement in civil rights. So generally, for most people, it was a feel-good time. I can't speak that it was that way for all people, but for the most part, that was a great period for American, the American dream. The generation that ended before the baby boomers, that would be 1945, in case you're curious, was called the silent generation. And the silent generation was the generation that was endured the Great Depression and World War II, where times were tough. So the baby boomers had a much more positive outlook towards life. The silent generation before, which endured the Depression and World War II, it had its moments of optimism as well, but it also endured a lot. So The generation that came after the baby boomer generation has been called Generation X, in case you're curious. And most of the people on our call are probably baby boomers, and some of you are Generation X, maybe a few of you even Y. Generation X was the generation that was through the mid-1960s through, I'll say, around 1980 or so. And Generation X grew up in the shadows of my generation, meaning they didn't have the unbridled optimism of the post-war boom that defined the baby boomers era. Their childhood unfolded in the aftermath of cultural revolutions and the 1960s economic downturns. And unlike the baby boomers who were instilled with a strong, strong belief that they could achieve anything with creative imagination, hard work, Generation X came in at an age where the world seemed a little bit less promising and more fragmented. Family structures had changed quite a bit during this time, and there was a rise in dual income households, but there was also a large increase in divorce rates during that time. Many Generation X folks found themselves returning to empty homes after school because one or both parents, whether it's one or two family parent household, were working. So often for this generation, the parents were occupied with work, and these children had not a lot of choice. They became a little bit more self-reliant at a younger age. And they were put into roles of responsibility, regularly caring for themselves and or caring for younger siblings. And they didn't have the same adult guidance, perhaps, as the generation before. As the traditional family dinner table began to see fewer and fewer gatherings and family time became scarcer, technology started to fill the void in most of these homes. And so this was the generation where you'd see the beginning of devices and personal computers. Generation X, formative years, they had computers and devices as an escape and also a way of entertainment and a new tool for exploration. And that part of it is very good. As wondrous as computers have been, they didn't replace the nurturing environment and optimistic encouragement that previous generations had enjoyed. In essence, while the baby boomers were raised with a whole chorus of voices telling them they could achieve prosperity, Generation X was given, you could call it a toolkit, and they were left to figure things out on their own. The good part of this, because there's always good and there's a little bit of, there's a down and up. The good part of it for Generation X is it fostered resilience and independence. Maybe, though, a less optimistic and maybe a more skeptical outlook about life and about the possibilities for them. And it's important to note, because those of us who are really involved in this teaching understand how this understand how this teaching works, understand how consciousness is the thing that shapes our reality. So if you grew up in my generation, where you were taught what the mind can see and believe it can achieve, and there's a lot of that type of messaging, and there's a lot of family time, you're getting a different kind of encouragement than you would be getting from the next generation, which had all the tools in the world at their disposal, and they were more independent, but they maybe didn't have the same coaching and the same family opportunities that many of us in my generation had. But in any event, in the teaching, we understand how consciousness shapes prosperity. And that's really the thing through all of these different generations to understand is your consciousness, what you were raised, what you were told, what you expose yourself to, is going to shape your outcome. It's going to shape your sense of well-being. It's going to shape your prosperity. I want to next mention, because I don't want to leave anybody out, the millennials, and they're also referred to as Generation Y. They grew up in a world that was completely buzzing with technology. The internet, their smartphones, their tablets, everything transformed how they connected with life and how they communicated. But while they had a whole universe at their fingertips, their real-world outlook was clouded because they were learning about all the financial struggles that were going on in parts of the world and within their own families often. One of the major shadows over this generation was the 2008 financial crisis, which I myself remember going through. It's when, in most places, the real estate market crashed, and it was a mess. And this generation lived through that. Just as many were stepping into adulthood and looking for jobs, the news waves and their parents were talking about all that was going on where the economy greatly faltered. This setback shaped their views on money and on success. Unlike their parents or grandparents who aspired to own homes, have families, and chase what we call the American dream, many millennials feared that these might not ever be available to them, that they may be completely out of reach for them. So this generation really understood that there were economic challenges, and as a result, many of them delayed doing some of these, what we'll call milestones, that were once taken for granted. They postponed getting married, they postponed buying an apartment or a house, starting a family. They postponed moving out from their parents' house. Many continued to live on at home with their parents well into their 30s because of the financial hurdles and the cost of things. Each new generation seems to be grappling with more and more obstacles than before. So the optimism is there, but it's somewhat tempered. There's huge advancements, opportunities as never before, but there's every kind of obstacle that seems to be in the way at the same time. So given these challenges, it becomes clear why our teaching, why our weekly gathering can be so helpful. Could be a beacon of hope and guidance for anyone, millennials in particular. In a world where they and we are inundated with information, oftentimes, even with all the information, we're starved of wisdom. Bill Tolliver used to advise his class, Dr. Bill, to commune with some of the greatest minds that have ever lived, and think great thoughts. Well, I don't know that everybody's doing that, but that's still good advice. And our weekly gatherings provide information you won't be finding while you're scrolling on TikTok, I can promise you. Well, maybe they'll have some of our stuff there. But for the millennials and everyone else, while it might seem that the odds are stacked against you in some ways, remember that your potential is boundless. If one door closes, others can open, if you have the consciousness to know that there's opportunities for you. Each of us are inlets and outlets of God consciousness. We're inlets and outlets of abundance itself. In the middle of uncertainty, our teaching can be a tremendous help. You can think of it like a compass, because it'll guide us towards a life of purpose, fulfillment, and true prosperity. And to all of us, by understanding and supporting the unique challenges faced by each of these generations, we can collectively create a brighter and more optimistic future for all of us. So there's a lot of challenges. It becomes clear that our teaching is ever more important. Again, this is like information overload. We're using artificial intelligence ourselves. I am myself. Everybody I know is now. Our gatherings, when we come together on Wednesday, Thursdays, and Sundays, we can be fed with information that will remind us that deep within the center of our being, there is this life that responds to us. The next generation I'll briefly mention is Generation Z. They're born between 1997 and 2012. These are called the digital natives. I don't think they ever were without an internet connection. They probably were using a keyboard from the time they're 3 or 4 years old. They have a whole different set of challenges. One thing that's great about them, they're more globally aware. They seem to know what's going on in the world, and they seem to know they seem to have more highly developed social consciousness, meaning they're aware of social issues. They've seen what works. They've seen what their predecessors have grappled with. They've noted the financial problems. Their primary concern, as best I can read and understand, is trying to find their way in a new world where the costs of everything are rising. They're trying to figure out how to obtain an affordable education, trying to figure out if there will be a job for them that could support them. So it's an interesting and challenging time for them, because the very industries they might be interested in seem to be being overturned, monthly, every year. Everything's becoming automated. So they have their own set of concern. A large number, report that they're dealing with mental health issues too, with all the challenges they're facing. Our message to this Generation Z, would be like the message to everyone. Stay tuned in. Please tune into the center. Please stay with us, because you'd greatly benefit from the guidance and the teachings from a New Thought Center, a good New Thought Center. You can find inner peace in a world where there's a constant digital buzz. So we can help you. We will remind you that you have the power. Our teaching will help you become more prosperous by means of your consciousness. We will teach you about the law. We will teach you, as you develop a rich mentality, it will start to demonstrate it in your world. Our center is now at least 90% virtual, so we're definitely here for this particular generation, which prefers to be connected digitally. More than any other generation that I've mentioned, our digital lessons are tailored to resonate with this generation. And we do so in a way that they want to communicate. They prefer to communicate, for the most part, digitally. And we will offer wisdom in formats that they're most comfortable with. So our message to Generation Z is, by tuning in to our weekly gatherings, you're creating a sanctuary and a place where you can gain insights and tools to navigate the unique challenges that are of your generation. And as you do, you'll find lessons on prosperity and also a roadmap to living a more fulfilling and abundant life. To the broader community, let's understand and support Generation Z, recognizing their real value. They're the future. They have enormous challenges, and they have tremendous potential. There's only one other generation that I'll mention, and that's called Alpha, and that's for everybody from 2014 onward. We really don't know the characteristics of this group yet, but they are going to be the children. They are the children of the millennials, and they're growing up in an even more technologically advanced era with artificial intelligence. So growing up in a world where technology is everywhere present and can cater to almost every need will probably develop a heightened sense of possibility. It may be true in a new era of abundance. With every advancement comes a new set of challenges. So our teaching, as I think about all these generations, including Alpha, offers a foundation of wisdom and principles that are timeless, even as the world is changing at warp speed. And our teaching is rooted in ideas of inner prosperity, abundance, and the power of positive thought. So we hope to guide each of these generations towards realizing their fullest capabilities and potentials, and help them navigate whatever challenge it is that they're having with optimism, with positive expectancy always. I think it's time now to remember the importance of the fundamentals. When we meditate and we take a deep pause, we realize that there's some animating something inside of us, operating in us and through us, and we can sense it. Louise Hay would say, deep at the center of your being is an infinite well of love. In the old days, Raymond Charles Barker, our founder, would say with great authority, "I have a rich father." Today, people don't really speak that way, but it's important to understand what Dr. Barker meant when he said, "I have a rich father." Barker was talking about with the idea of a rich father, that he is a part of this abundant life. He is this source that is within him, this active living thing that's inside of him. And he's also speaking the way he is with great authority, because he's absolutely certain that it is there within him and it's responding to his every single thought. The rich father doesn't know anything about recessions. The rich father doesn't know anything about economics, upturns or downturns. It doesn't know anything about catastrophes. And the point Barker would be trying to have us all understand is that you have what you have within you, this rich spirit, this energy, will supply you with everything you could ever possibly want or need. Barker's statement was and is a testament to the spiritual bounty that each of us are heir to. Deep at the center of your being is all knowledge, all prosperity, all abundance. So it's there for you if you learn how to tap into it. With smartphones as an emblem of this area, we hold more power in that device in your hand than was in the computers that launched the Apollo missions. So this is a stark reminder of how far we have journeyed. There's a paradox to all this prosperity. Amidst the towering skyscrapers of our great cities and our booming stock markets, many are still live in pursuit of basic necessities. Yet, in all these contrasts lies the profound potential for growth and transformation. We're reminded of the words of Ernest Holmes, our founder. Holmes says, "Life is a mirror and will reflect back to the thinker what he or she thinks into it." So as we face economic uncertainties, we must challenge ourselves to reflect optimism, hope, and resilience. Have they be your truths. We draw strength from the stories of the communities banding together who share resources and who revive long-forgotten sustainable practices. We know life is moving forward by means of each and every one of us. We have very modern challenges with technology. Sometimes it's way too much. Recently, we have talked about taking a digital detox from time to time, and some of you have taken what's called digital Sabbaths, where you have a day with your family without any technology. You want to learn how to control. You're the guardian at the gate of this too, so you want to be the person who decides how much content you want to have in your world. Technology is a tremendous gift, as I've said several times today, and it's also something that's bringing us tremendous challenges. Truly wonderful innovations have come about because of it, and yet there's been huge job losses as a result of it. I was thinking as I was putting my notes together, I don't go to McDonald's very often, but I was at one not too long ago, and I interacted with several screens. One where I ordered my food, and then another screen that told me where my food was, and another showed me when it was ready to pick it up and where to pick it up. I don't think I had a word with a single person when I got my Big Mac. The same was true recently in a trip to CVS Pharmacy. There was a person who greeted me, which was nice. I didn't expect that, but that was nice. And after I found the things I was looking for, I scanned the items I wanted to buy, and I put them in a bag and I left. So, and right around here, the church building, 3 of the banks right around us have recently disappeared during the past year or two. I was told that people now bank online and they don't need these branches anymore. Retail stores are closing all over the city, and many of you tell me it's the same thing where you live. I'm told because people don't want to shop so much in the city anymore, and they prefer buying things online. I'm sure the shop owners have had their reasons for closing. One thing's for certain, there's an awful lot of change going on. And I remember when I was younger, seeing the fast food places come into the town that I was living in. And I remember the early big box stores that came in just before Walmart. And when Walmart came in, I remember thinking to myself, this can't be good for all the small businesses downtown. And the last time I was in that hometown, at least 50% of the stores in that beautiful Vermont town were boarded up. They've been boarded up for a long time. My family was way ahead of the curve. They moved to Florida before it all happened. They were very in tune and tuned in people. The thing to remember is that you also can be tuned in. Things are happening, but if you're living with this teaching, you're going to have some inner guidance, internal guidance as life is moving and changing. Because you have this internal guidance, you can pivot and you can make changes if you're living in communing with Source. So when one door closes, remember others will open if you are open. That's the important part. Doors will close. Life changes. But if you're living and you're communing with life, you're going to get the messages at the right time. You'll be in the perfect place at the perfect time, all the time, receiving the messages you need. Things, though, will never be the same. As a religious scientist, I understand completely that life goes forward and things change. And I also understand that it does no good to lament the past. It's no good to try to make our church community like it was 20 years ago or even 10 years ago. And please, never try to get people to change. Just please, for your own sake, give up on that one. Religious science communities have been cut in half during the past 5 or 10 years, maybe more than that. No one really knows, but there's far fewer around. Some of our baby boomers still talk about wanting us all to get together, but really as it works out, it's more convenient for the baby boomers to tune in to our digital services also. We are here also very fortunate that we anticipated a great deal of this long ago, and we found a way to evolve and grow and to meet a new reality. Most big people simply don't want to take the time, and they don't want to spend the money to drive across town into the city or come through the boroughs by subway and deal with the weather and everything else. They actually prefer watching and participating from the comfort of their homes. A few years ago, there was a lot of people upset about us doing all the things we do digitally, and of course we had to through COVID. But being upset never changes anything. We're always called to deal with what is, or you could call it the realities on the ground. Many of my fellow ministers who are still in ministry, because there's a lot of them who've left, are holding services now in their homes or in whatever buildings or rented space that they can find. So there's a 12-step slogan which is appropriate here, which is accepting life on life's terms. And that's what we always do. We try to accept life and embrace everything that's good, including technology. And I think it's something important for all of us to do, to look to see the good in what's here and accept it and be in tune. Human knowledge is doubling every few days. It's absolutely mind-boggling. No one can keep up with it, and it's producing its challenges, but it's also producing unforeseen opportunities like no other time. Who would have imagined a decade ago that digital content creators or virtual reality architects would be new professions? One of my great teachers was Dr. Bill Tolliver, who said in one year, I can't remember which year, it was a year where the country was in a big recession and everybody was scared to death. There were gas lines and rationing and shortages, and prices were going up on food and commodities and gas. Does any of that sound familiar? It's like what's been happening, in recent years here. So I'm saying we've been there before, and Dr. Bill during that time was a little bit outrageous. Free thinker, like most religious scientists, always ahead of the curve, every curve. And he put a huge sign up front of the church, and it said, "We heard there is a recession." And underneath that sign, in big letters, he wrote the words, "We're not participating." So I smile and I remember that sign getting so much attention, and he was such a leader. And people were doing what people were doing, saying, how could he say such a thing? What kind of place is that? Of course, his students, they were all New Thought students and practitioners, just like many of you. They understood him very well. They got him, and they loved him because he was so clear about the teaching itself. So clear in his understanding. Dr. Bill rarely used a male pronoun when he's talking about source or God, but I absolutely know he was invoking the spirit of Raymond Charles Barker, where Barker said, "I have a rich father." There were no recessions in Dr. Bill's mind, and he wasn't going to participate in any. He wanted all of his students to understand that each and every one of us are supplied and supported, and we're supported in every way. And he wanted us to step out there in that faith and know that we're inlets and outlets of God activity. There are no recessions for us. Doors closed, but we live in close communion with Spirit, and so they will open for us. People who are in this teaching are not necessarily like the masses because they commune with Spirit, they pay attention to the messages that they get. Emerson is famous for saying, Spirit is always wooing us. And it is. It's always trying to get your attention. So let us all be committed to being still and listening and working with our consciousness. So with Dr. Bill, choosing not to participate in a recession was a message that he put on that billboard about consciousness. It's a call to see beyond the immediate challenges and recognize and find the boundless possibilities and opportunities which are surely here. And sometimes, it doesn't look like they're there, but they are. And you'll see it the more you practice the teaching. We have faith in divine principle, and we have faith that life responds to our consciousness. I'll say it again. We have faith in divine principle, and we have faith that life responds to our consciousness. So we're always working on our consciousness. We have faith that we will demonstrate success and prosperity regardless of what's happening in the outer world. Life will always give us the insight. As you commune with this inner knowing, you'll always be given what you need. You'll get messages, or what you might call clues. If you are communing with life, you might get a message out of the blue. There's something that Dr. Bill used to say that I loved hearing. He said, there is always a part of you that knows. You know what to do, you know where to go. And he used to, in classes, tell us, whenever a student would say, I don't know what to do, he would tell us, he would say, there is that part of you that knows. And so I guess I challenged you as in the same way he challenged me years ago. There is that which is within each of you that knows what to do. So go to that place and get those answers. So I've seen people pay attention to clues, and I've seen my parents do it. I've watched my parents move from one state to another, following a knowing, a hunch. I've done it myself. When you're living the affirmative life and you're communing with Spirit, you can trust life, as Louise would tell us, because you're going to receive information when you need it the most. My only suggestion here is to tune in more often. And on the one hand, I'm saying tune in here to our lessons, Wednesday, Thursday, and Sunday, but what I'm saying in a bigger sense, in a more important sense, is to tune in to yourself. Our lessons will help you tune in for sure. They'll keep reminding you that you have this power within you and it will inform you. So listen to it, commune with it. You are, as Louise Hay used to say, unlimited. Everybody on this call are inlets and outlets of God activity, or source activity if you prefer, inlets and outlets of this one life. Whatever it has, you have. If doors seem to be closing or changing in your world and your life, rather than panicking and going with the crowd, it would be much better for you to dig in and know that you are deeply supplied and supported. Let's talk for a minute about the spiritual way going forward. The rhythm of life definitely has its ebbs and its flows, without a doubt. Louise Hay taught us that love, especially self-love, is a healing force. In a time when financial anxieties loom large, it's time to remind ourselves of the things that we do possess, the things that we have. When we can list them in our mind and think about them, usually it will move us towards gratitude, which, as you know from any of our classes, is in and of itself a causative thing. As you focus on what you have, it's like counting your blessings, what you have. It'll help you think more expansively. We have wonderful minds, and if they're positive, they can cause us to think new and expansive thoughts. And it can cause us to see new opportunities that we would otherwise miss. So we have in this great teaching such a gift. And if we use it, we will see demonstration after demonstration, manifestation if you prefer. But keep seeing the good, and you will have the good in your life. Mary Menon Morrissey often spoke about the limitless power of our beliefs. Armed with this wisdom from all these people, let's tackle the economic challenges, not with trepidation, but with unyielding belief in a brighter tomorrow. So here's a few of our esteemed teachers on this subject. Wayne Dyer once said, "Abundance is not something we acquire, it's something that we tune into." And Deepak Chopra once remarked, "The more you recognize and express gratitude for the things that you have, the more things you will have to express gratitude for." And Rumi, who I quote often, said, "What you seek is seeking you." Or said yet another way, the good you are looking for is looking for you. Bob Proctor, like Dr. Bill T., would be telling you not to be thinking about the recessions when he advised, the only limits in our life are those that we impose on ourselves. It's worth repeating. The only limits that we have in our lives are those that we impose upon ourselves. Tony Robbins said one that sounds a little bit like me, because I'm always talking about dropping your story. Stop history, stop the story. Tony Robbins said, the only thing that's keeping you from getting what you want is the story that you keep telling yourself. The only thing that's keeping you from getting what you want is the story you keep telling yourself. Stop listening to all the media and all the naysayers. Limit the amount of time you spend on negative news. Keep it in mind, instead of scrolling on, watching some of the things that some of you watch, you could be communing with some of the greatest thoughts that have been on the planet. So keep all that in mind. Tune out all that negative stuff and the repetitive stuff. Eckhart Tolle said, acknowledging the good that you already have in your life is the foundation for all abundance. And I have one from the Bible that I have paraphrased for you. Step into the realm of gratitude with a thankful heart and let your praises echo. For the divine is kind and boundless in love, a constant presence throughout time and generations. I like that. And I have one more for you. Again paraphrased. The infinite source that provides the essence of creation and sustenance for growth also amplifies our inner potential, expanding the abundance of our authentic selves. Louise Hay simply said, life loves me. I am abundant. I love, accept, and approve of myself. She invites us all to approach the ocean of life with much bigger buckets, bigger ideas, knowing we're supplied and supported. Doesn't matter even slightly if a door closes, because we have an abundant consciousness. We keep approaching the ocean of life with positive expectancy. People who practice this teaching are tough because they have self-knowledge, they have a sense of self-worth, they know that they're supplied and supported. We are all heirs to the kingdom. There's an unlimited account with your name on it. I hope everybody on the call today is opening themselves up to receiving all the good which is theirs. Let's have the willingness to open ourselves up to new ways of receiving, which comes from deeply knowing that you are supplied and supported. So let's think about a new day as we stand on the precipice of tomorrow. Let us not forget Edwina Gaines' words. She said, prosperity is our birthright as children of God. The essence of this message is not just about economics. It's profoundly spiritual. Here's a statement. From the infinite abundance of the universe, we affirm prosperity in every form. We declare that our lives are enriched not only by material blessings, but with love, wisdom, and purpose. We trust in the divine order, knowing that every challenge is an opportunity for growth, and that our paths are always illuminated with grace and abundance. And so it is. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you at the other side of the break.